Welcome back, episode 87 of the Gaming Enforcement Agency. 2 in a row, bang, bang. We're, of course, now joined by Unky, second slotting it this evening. Welcome back, my friend. How are you?
Mate, I'm very, very well. Good to be back here talking Spider-Man.
Back where you belong, some might say, in that second slot. And then third slotting it this evening is the upset bully. How are you, mate?
Well, I'll just hold you two up again. I've got as much as Ace and Unky like to flex, I think there's only one person in here that's got the shoulders broad enough to hold the two of you up.
Perfect. I love it. Let's get straight into tonight. Games, Interrogation, and Deliberation of Spider-Man 2. And it is Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Of course, we're all playing it on the PlayStation 5. As far as I know, it's not on PC, and I believe it's the only platform available. Unky, straight over to you, mate. First off, is it on PC?
It is not on PC yet. I think like most of the PC games, they have to wait for the PS5 games. So no PS4 SKU for this one as well. So Insomniac Games flexing on the PS5 only this time round.
I love it. Starting off the big flex with the Sandman too. How'd you like the opening?
Oh, mate, they definitely outdid themselves with openings. As far as openings go, this is certainly there, and I think that's one thing that this game, I think, has done better than a lot of other games. I think the big moments in this game, a lot of games might only have one of these moments in their whole game. So far, I've played about 5 of these moments in this game that have just outdone each other every single time, and I'm blown away, and it's given me sort of the goosebumps every time I've played one of these moments, especially when they hit with the story moments as well.
Oh, yeah, it's the best opening I've seen all week. How about you, Bully? Did it do it for you? Did your spider senses tingle?
Oh, they tingled for a little bit, and then they, tingled off into the distance after that.
No, look out. Was it the haptic feedback, Unky? That's doing it for me. I tell you what, the little emotional resonance in the controller.
Oh, mate, I think this is, as I said to you guys earlier, I think this is the best use of the haptics feedback since probably Returnal in terms of the nuances within that controller. It's not only the big moments and when you pull the thing, you can feel the actual web coming out, but it's the smaller moments, like just the walking around and feeling the crunch in the sand as you walk around, or someone hugging someone and you're feeling that through the controller. It's just all those small nuances in it that I think we haven't seen since the Returnal and the raindrops hitting the controller. So I'm really enjoying. I know some people, the haptics aren't for them, but for me, I really like to feel that, not even just the rumble, but just the way it feels from left hand to right hand, the way the controller will vibrate massively for certain things, but just so small for others. I just think it's the perfect implementation of what this controller can do.
They've absolutely nailed it, mate. I love the little heartbeat, little shimmy they give you from time to time when you're in a stealth section. That's beautiful.
No, it's one of those just small points of this controller, and I've got the DualSense Edge as well, which is the sort of the bigger version of that controller. And I don't know whether it probably is doing things better than the standard DualSense, but I'm blown away by just the controls.
Are you rocking the back paddles? What buttons have you got assigned there if you're using them?
No, it's one of those things like, yes, I spend all these money on the controllers, but for some reason for me, I'm just an old school gamer, and no matter how much I try these back pedals, I just cannot train my memory and my muscle memory to do it. It doesn't matter what I do. And yes, it's one of those games you are mashing a lot of buttons at any given time, but if I chucked it on the back pedals, I'll probably forget to use them anyway. So just go on the standard controller config.
Fair enough, mate. If you're looking to get rid of it, send it my way. I'll happily give it a good home. Sorry, Bully.
I was going to say maybe you can try and configure one of those to the dodgy walking around / stealth elements.
Very Forspoken. Echoes of Forspoken's walking sections. Nah, come on, Unky. Give it some love, mate. What are you liking? What are the highlights?
Well, I know Bully's not a fan of these walking moments in the games, but I actually think the slower moments in this game actually give the story time to breathe. And I think if you were just being Spider-Man the whole time and doing that action stuff, it could actually get a bit stale. But I think the way they break up the story, the way it's paced, I think in the first game it was criticised of quite a fair bit for those slow moments and the MJ moments and the hard state fail moments you could get into where if you got spotted, essentially you were dead. I think they've alleviated that now with the MJ moments and some of the other moments as well. I don't want to spoil too much, but giving MJ that sort of weapon, which sort of evolves throughout the story as well, and you can do more things. The stealth with her, I think it sort of plays a bit more like an action stealth game. I sort of had a little bit more Last of Us vibes, creeping around, getting the stealth kills, or throwing a diversion one way and going another way. These slightly more open areas and giving you different options within those areas as opposed to just a complete linear space. And I just think, I didn't really enjoy her moments in the first game, yet when I get to these moments in this game, I'm actually excited to do them because they are breaking up the pacing. They do allow the character of Peter and the symbiote suit and stuff to kind of show a different side of it, kind of like how Metal Gear took you out of the shoes of Snake and gave you Raiden. As much as that was jarring, because I want to be playing as Snake, you could say I want to play as Spider-Man, but I think it shows just that different side of Peter from different perspectives. And I think without those moments, you'd kind of lose some of the emotional resonance that those story moments bring if you didn't play as those other characters. So, no, I really enjoy those slow moments, and I really enjoy the way those gameplay sort of differences sort of break up that gameplay of just being Spider-Man, which of course you still get to be Spider-Man. There's the amount of moments in this game just being Spider-Man, I think rivals anything on the big screen, in the cartoons, in the comics. I think this is the best comic book video game we've got. I mean, it's definitely up there. I haven't finished it yet. I'm probably just over halfway through the main story, but holy crap, the moment that I just did today we obviously know Venom's in the game, but just hitting that moment finally in the story, and by God, do they deliver.
That's a great question, man. How many hours have you thrown into it so far? I'm sitting at 6 myself.
I'm about 15 hours, and I think it's just ticked over 50%-ish, I think, full completion. I don't think that's just a story. I think that's full completion. I think I just checked trophies before. I think I'm sitting at about 10% trophies. I think Bully's at 4%. I think you're sitting at
1%. What are you trying to say? Bully, how many hours have you thrown into it, mate?
I think I'm about 13 or 14, and I don't know. It might be, you might be right, Unky, because I think some of the pictures you were sending before the show, you were sort of hitting story beats maybe half an hour to an hour before I was, but my completion percentage is at about 55 at the moment. So I've done quite a few of the side missions and some of the collectible stuff as well, which we can discuss those side missions a bit later. But in terms of the progress to it, which is funny because most of the it's a change from most of the other or the way that it normally calculates a percentage, because normally it calculates a percentage as a percentage of the main game only, and it doesn't count the extra stuff in other games. So it's kind of interesting that they've managed to get it in, and probably because it's a first party game, but they've managed to combine everything in the game into that percentage completion rate, so you sort of know where you are across the whole game. Obviously you can go into the menus and even into the trophies with the tracking to see how many of those side missions or the collectibles that you've got. I think, like, for instance, I'm at 86% on the photograph collectible moments. So you can see you're sort of getting close for each individual thing, but it's good also to see how far you progressed as a total percentage of everything in the game, and a really different way to do it from what I've seen in the past.
Yeah, mate. And a big shout out to those photographic moments. For me, that is the most enjoyable in-game collective I've had in any game. I absolutely love going to the different photo spots and then picking off, the little moments of civilian life in the big city. I think that is, tip of the cap to them. They've nailed that in Insomniac. What are your thoughts, Unky?
Yeah, I think they have. I think they've actually nailed the side quest content more so than the first one. It doesn't feel quite as repetitive with the stuff that you're doing. The stuff that is repetitive is, for lack of a better word, easier and just more fun to do. It's not grindy. Even the science parts, I think they've actually nailed in this game. They've taken out that boring sort of same mechanic you would do in the first game and replaced it with all the other things that I find myself doing that I don't find myself wanting to skip, even though they actually do, like Ratchet and Clank, give the option to skip these puzzles. So it is good for people that just want to keep getting on with the Spider-Man of the game and don't want to do all this stuff. But for me, that's all part of the experience of playing as not only Spider-Man, but as Peter Parker as well. So no, I really enjoyed the side content we've got so far, and yeah, it's up there with some of the best they've done.
One minor gripe I've got on that: I was in the middle of a police chase earlier today. I was, there was a car going down, turning left, right, center down the side streets of Manhattan, and I'm chasing it, and I accidentally landed on the next story mission, and it just the chase was abandoned, and I was into a cutscene. I'm like, oh, that could have been handled a little bit better. Have you blokes been ripped out of a Spidey moment for a game cutscene yet?
I wouldn't say we're ripped out of a moment. I've been ripped out of a little. I think it was Miles, and I was trying to do one of the Prowler things where you sort of do his little cool DualSense controllery thing where you hold left trigger, right trigger, which I think is a cool use of that, and pulling the thing up. So I was in the middle of one of those, and it was right next to a main mission, which I had to be Peter. So it flicked me out of that into Peter, into the main mission, so I had to go back and do that thing. It wasn't a big issue, but yeah, it had been ripped out of a moment.
That is the one thing that's got my old man hands hurting, is those Prowler, hold the triggers at the precise moment. That is an absolute killer. But the rest of the game, silky smooth. I'm absolutely loving it. Bully, highlight for you so far, mate?
Oh, when we're talking about this, ripping you out of moments, so it's probably a good point for me to jump in. And I know you guys have been pretty smooth sailing through yours, but mine's been, it's quite funny. The first 3 or 4 hours I put in were an absolute buggy trash bag mess, which is bizarre because the last 8 or 9 hours that I played, I don't think I've encountered one. But in those first 3 or 4 hours, I think I got two hard crashes out of the game. I had at least half a dozen occasions where your quest marker didn't pop up on the map. On top of that, I've had wall clipping or being stuck behind. This is probably not giving too much away, but fairly early on in the game, you're in Aunt May's old house with MJ, and I managed to get myself in a position where I got stuck into a corner behind MJ and couldn't get out of it.
Is that when you were trying to take the trash out? Highlight of game playing, wasn't it?
Oh my god!
Can't fully lay into it.
So yeah,
storytelling. Well, how dare they? How dare they?
Yeah. So just stuff like that, sort of, that really frustrated me early doors. But as I said, I haven't encountered too many of those. And I know your position on Unky there is that you like it being breaking up the main sort of part, and you're not just swinging around and fighting, and that's the majority of the game. And I'll be brutally honest, I don't mind the occasional bit where you break up the story and there's a bit of a slower moment. I really don't mind that at all. What I do have issue with is it's not just a 2 or 3 minute, let's just, go for a wander, expand the story, have a chat between, Peter or Harry or MJ or whoever it is that you're with. That they just extend on for far too long, in my opinion. There's an early one where you end up, in a flashback sequence at Peter and Harry's old school that just, for mine, I think they went on for about half an hour or so, and I like. You
wanted to play a game, not undergo a unit of study.
Yeah, I was sort of going 5 or 10 minutes. Flesh out their backstory. Show where they've come from and where they're now at and why they're friends and what their background is. Give it 5 or 10 minutes and move on. I just don't need that half an hour to 40 minutes of that sort of stuff. Yeah. The MJ stuff, I agree with you. That's been tightened up a lot. That's a lot more fun than what the original one was. One of the side missions, and we were discussing before we started recording, is Haley, who's one of Miles's friends, girlfriend. I don't know, however you want to describe that. You play a sequence as her where you go around graffitiing or painting over graffiti on walls. That was the most tedious thing I think I've ever been involved in my life. I get the background, I get the story, but you can do it without 20 minutes of nonsense, slow walk, wandering around and traversal. Yep. I think he could have told that a lot better and had that gameplay a lot more, engaging. If instead of going to do 4 or 5, you do 1 or 2 and then punch the story along.
Yep.
And have it last 5 minutes. I think that's where my gripe with those are. Having said all that, so I'm actually, as good as the main story is, I'm actually more engaged with some of the side missions that you have and some of the side characters that sort of come in and drop out. I've actually enjoyed, progressing some of those stories more than I have, some parts of the main story. But, to that end, there's some other bits. I think there's another section where you end up at Miles's school or university, whatever it is, that you end up, going to get. I think there was one where you go and take a picture of a drone school or drone class or whatever it is, and then there's another section in that same area that you hook up some electrical equipment so that some guy can ask another guy to the prom or to homecoming or something. I was like, come on, do we really? Do we need this dribble background? Some of the side missions are great. Some of it are just trash. Why is it in there? I don't know.
I looked hard in the accessibilities option, mate. I couldn't see anywhere that was tighten up the story segments. I couldn't see that option. They do have a vast array of accessibility options. That one wasn't there. Unky, can you tell me, mate? I couldn't find it. Maybe you saw it. Is there any way to invert the flying, both on the the wingsuit, whatever you call it, and the drone flying when you're launching the new things? Is that somewhere?
Yeah, it is. It's in control, so you can definitely invert it.
Gonna have to get onto that.
I don't mind. I prefer the inverted controls for flight. I can't do it obviously other way, but I prefer the inverted controls for flight. But talking about the flight and talking about Silky Smooth that you mentioned before, this is going to be one of the best controlled and performing games, I think. I know Blue spoke about bugs, but in terms of performance and stuff that's going on the screen at any given time, the fact that other games say they can't hit 60 frames and high fidelity, Insomniac's proven them wrong, because this thing not only runs at 60, it does 120 hertz as well. Doesn't drop a beat, looks spectacular, to excuse the Spider-Man pun.
No need to excuse the puns, mate. They're welcome here. Bring them on.
Good. But the amount of stuff going on at screen at any given time in some of these massive moments, and this thing does not skip a beat whatsoever. It is insane what they do. And then the fast travel, it's like 1.3 seconds to instantly fast travel.
The fast travel, I haven't found it yet.
So once you unlock a certain, you know how you've got your little meter in each thing that sort of comes across when you do side quests. So once it hits the middle, that unlocks fast travel for that area.
I've yet to unlock it. That explains it.
And to travel within those areas, all you do is drop a pin wherever you want in that area and just hold the button down, and it will instantly fast travel to that point of the map. So there's no bits to fast travel; it's anywhere you like. So, and the fact that's within 1.3 seconds and you're swinging again is just insane on this PS5 running as well as this does, with the amount of stuff going on at any given time, is just insane. Like Insomniac needs to be applauded for how they've got this thing running. Yeah, albeit Bully's copped some bugs. The only bugs I had, within my first couple of hours of playtime was 2 spiders on the screen for the first time, and
they're meant to be there, mate. One's Peter, one's Miles.
That makes sense. But no, and speaking of the 2 Spider-Men, I think they've just nailed their dynamic. They've nailed that mentor-mentee dynamic of and their relationship, especially as it sort of goes through the whole, Peter in the symbiote suit and, him becoming angry and stuff, just like Spider-Man 3. I think they nail that relationship. I think they nail the combat where you can come up across a random group of enemies and Miles is already there fighting, or he jumps in, you're doing the dual takedowns and stuff with those characters, and not just Miles. There's other moments you're playing with other characters and the same thing's happening. And I know Bully spoke about, he didn't like the stealth, but I think the stealth now, you can either choose to do it or not do it. I've been choosing to do it now. The fact that you can now zip line a web across anywhere within any of those levels and take out the whole thing stealthily if you want, and then not raise all the extra enemies. That's what I've been finding the fun in, is just trying to clear out whole rooms of enemies completely stealthily. And then if I want to go loud, I can. But I know in the other game, you could probably clear the first wave of enemies stealthily, and then straight after that, you'll straight into combat no matter what. This, you can sort of go out of it and come back into it. And I like that flow, and I like that choice that you now get. And obviously, Peter and Miles having different sort of abilities, and Miles being able to go invisible. But, also you've got Peter, who's got his symbiote abilities. He's also got his spider mech suit abilities, but then Miles has got his Venom abilities, different to other Venom, which is a little bit confusing if you ask me, but then he's got electricity abilities as well. But no, they're cool. It's cool to bounce between those 2 characters, especially with the amount of suits now they give you as well. Like, oh god, me, I love my cosmetics, and I love my anything game where I can unlock different outfits and stuff. This game is doing it for me because it has everything. And when you start unlocking some of the Spider-Verse suits, and they unlock the ability to have that extra, or that they take out a frame to make it play and look like the Spider-Verse movies, that stuff's insane. The fact they're doing that in a game like this, and all it does is drop a frame of your character, you feel like you're in that movie. It's insane.
It is great, man. And I loved in the most recent one, I'm blanking on it, Across the Spider-Verse, I want to say.
Yep.
I love that film down to the ground. But the English bloke, the English Spider-Man, I can't remember his name, but his suit's in there, or at least a nod to his suit. I thought that was fantastic. I love having that in the game. The other big thing I want to shout out, and Hunky, please correct me here because I'm looking for it, but having the various, 8 abilities you've got by holding L1 or R1 in combat, and then throwing out those gadgets. For me, it's revolutionary. I've never played a combat game like this with so many abilities. Like, you could just stick to sort of, square, circle, attack, dodge, but then you can pull in the modifier keys, hit those face buttons, and just the gameplay explodes. Like, how many sort of horizons you can hit, how many different vertical sort of leaps you can take just to totally change the dynamics of the fight. I've never played a game this good. My question to you, Unky, was this available in Batman? It was just hidden from me and I couldn't see it?
No, they had the gadgets and stuff, but it wasn't sort of set out like this. I think the way they've done it, this has even differentiated itself from the first one, where you had like a weapon wheel that would come up and you got to use one at a time. I think putting them on those hotkey things and having your sort of powers on one, your gadgets on the other, and just having a select few of each, and or being able to switch out whatever ability you want attached to those face buttons, I think is a really genius idea to keep the combat flow fresh and fun and bombastic, and just give you that sort of power fantasy you want as playing Spider-Man. Bully probably be a test to this as well. The only game I think that's done it similar combat-wise this year is probably Final Fantasy 16, does something pretty similar with its combat and abilities and throwing stuff out there. But I think Spider-Man takes it a bit further in the fact that, it runs better for starters in that 60 frame per second mode. But it just does a lot more things with those buttons. I think Final Fantasy sort of had that thing where I would probably stick to the same abilities for the whole game. Even though I had all these other ones, I would stick to my core and I wouldn't change it up. Whereas with Spider-Man, I'm finding myself sort of switching out different ones and for different moments and different kinds of enemies, especially now when new enemies are being thrown at me and my old techniques no longer work with those. So I have to try the different stuff. So I think that's, where the old game sort of maybe became repetitive with the enemy design and enemy combat encounters. I think this game keeps it a bit more fresh.
And a big shout out to my new favorite thing. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it's holding L1 out of combat and circle, and then you do that launch up. That is my favorite move in the game by far. I love the way this game controls. Big shout out to that one. How are you blokes finding the old launch into the air mechanic?
Oh, I haven't really used it, but then I've done. I sort of do a lot more of the flight suit and just sort of swinging around. And it's funny because as you mentioned, Unky, you can fast travel. I think I've used that once just to see how it worked, but I've just enjoyed. I actually enjoy the traversal, just around getting around New York and just either swinging or with the suit just gliding around. I just get so much enjoyment out of that. And the only thing is, and I think I mentioned it to you, was when you talked about the haptic feedback, was just holding that right trigger while you're swinging around. And I don't think it's so. Once I made that comment to you, and I sort of actually thought, is it actually the haptics or is it the rumble? And it was sort of, it's very light on the haptic. It's more on the rumble, and the more that you swing, the more it rumbles. So that's my only complaint with it, is that if you're going for a lengthy sort of swing to go from one place to another, holding the trigger down and sort of having to not fight the haptic but pull against it, and combine that with the rumble, I find your trigger finger sort of, if you're doing it for 4 or 5 minutes straight, you sort of go, oh geez, I've had enough. I need a break, or I wouldn't mind.
Now, Bully, have you unlocked the ability to, you got the flight abilities? Have you unlocked the mid-flight abilities to sort of launch yourself up or go forward faster as well? Where you hold the L1 triangle to sort of shoot forward, or L1X to jump up higher in the air?
I probably could. I reckon I'm up to about level 25 or 26 or something like that. I haven't put points into anything since about level 10.
Yeah, so mate, do that. That, like, if you're enjoying the traversal now, especially the flight, this thing almost makes you like Superman. You literally go shooting across the sky with this thing. It's insane.
Well, it's funny because one of the collectibles you had to get was like really high up in the air that you can't swing to it, and the only way to do it was to glide to it. But I couldn't work out how to get high enough to glide. So that'd answer that question. You just have to unlock that, and then away you go. And
another thing on swinging, I don't know if you guys have seen this in the settings. There's a meter that's sort of switched all the way to number 10, which is swing assist. I recommend for that, the swing assist essentially makes swinging, I think, far too easy, and sort of it doesn't sort of give you that Spider-Man feel. I think all it does is sort of keep your momentum going forward the whole time. The web almost could stick to nothing sometimes, and Spider-Man I don't think he hits the ground. I think if you watch his animation actually comes back up before you even hit the web. You really have to not hit it at all to hit the ground. If you bring that down to, like, I've got it sitting at 5 is probably the sweet spot. The web's actually attached to things, and the physics of the webs act more like that Spider-Man 2 game back in the day, where all the physics count, and it actually feels more like swinging. And I don't know whether that's going to help you, Bully, with the less feeling like you're just holding R2 and the vibration. For me, it was a game changer. It just makes the game feel more like Spider-Man. You feel like the webs, you feel like you're being pulled from one side to the other. So maybe ram that setting down to 5 as well, and see how you go with the swinging.
Pro tip, mate. As soon as we're off air here, I'm firing back up Spider-Man 2, and that is the very first thing I'll be doing, that and then working on unlocking the fast travel. I know I've sort of banged on a little bit in the negative direction, and I apologize to Insomniac, because honestly, for me, this game is sitting at a 9. I'm loving my time with it. As I've just said, as soon as I'm off air, I'm going back in here. I love my Spider-Man films, stories, comic books, the whole lot, and this game is me down to the ground. I'm having an absolute blast. For me, no question, day one purchase, and following your advice, Unky, I dropped the $15 on the DLC, got the extra suits, very happy with that purchase. As I said, yeah, the game's sitting at about a 9 for me. I love it. Unky, any final points, and please slap a score on it.
Nah, for me, it's hard to say without finishing it what score I'm going to give it, but this game, the more I play it, the more I'm falling in love with it, and the more I don't think I'm going to get another big moment like the previous big moment, and it just keeps topping itself over and over again, especially with the moment with Venom, which I'm not even going to spoil what it is, but just the way they deliver that I thought was perfect, and I'm very happy to see sort of where this goes now. I could see this getting pretty close to my, one of my games of the year, the way it's going at the moment. I love Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man Miles Morales. This is better than both of those. I don't have a lot of gripes at the moment with it. I could see maybe, come the end of the game and I've still got some of those side activities, maybe they get repetitive having to do those, but I'm enjoying those way more than the first game, and I platinumed the first game. I'm leading it to 9.5 at the moment, and I telling you now, this is I've platinumed the other two Spider-Man. I'm going to be platinum this one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's on the platinum list for me. I'm right there with you. Platinum 1 and Miles Morales, and this is me all the way to the ground. I'm seeing this way through. How about you, Balik? Final thoughts and a score, if you don't mind.
Oh, just with the where you said it's a bit repetitive, Unky. I think that's one of the things I learned from the first one, because I fell into that trap trying to platinum it as well. Is sort of putting some of the crimes and some of the side missions aside to the end. So what I've tried to do is, anytime I see a crime or anytime I see a side mission, I go off and do it.
I've been doing that as well.
Yeah, so I sort of don't get, because I can see what's coming. You're going to get yourself bogged down at the end just trying to clear up all that sort of stuff. So I'm sort of trying to do it as I go. But I'm a bit, in terms of a score, like it's funny. The highs in this game are a 10 for me, but there's some really bad lows, in my opinion, that I've spoken about. That if that was, and I understand in isolation it's different, but and there's other parts to the game, but if you were to take those into isolation, there are 2 or 3 for me. So to make it to give it a definitive score is probably hard. I'd be probably singing it at an 8.5 maybe. I'd be interested to see, as you said, Unky, we're both sort of halfway through the story, how it ends up playing out and finishes it, because that could quite easily, the way the story plays out could quite easily bump it up to a 9 or a 9.5. But I just find that there's just so much of a gap in between the brilliance of 90% of it or 95% of the game and, just the real valleys with that last 5% that I just really struggle through. And, I'm not going to go over it again. We've touched on it. So, I mean, overall, I'm probably an 8.5, but that's a soft 8.5. I could very easily see it going up from there.
Yeah, excellent work, fellas. Thank you very much for your attendance here on Games Interrogation and Deliberation of Marvel Spider-Man 2. I'm keen to go hands back on. My spider senses are tingling. Thank you very much, everybody, for viewing us. Unky, what else could you do with the channel?
Like it, subscribe it, and you'll never miss it.
Oh, that was luck. Hey, that's not it. Old Uncle Donkey.
Gee, donkey.